What do you do when you hear voices down the hall? What do you do when you see a shadow in your room? What can you say when you see eldritch lights in the sky? Do you have the strength to believe in the unbelievable? To embrace the impossible? To go beyond the beyond? Join my friend as we explore the dark corners of the cosmos. So it's 3:48 a.m. Uh, in uh, in Los Angeles, California, and I'm awake, just lost in meditation and thought. And I thought that 3:48 a.m. would probably be a good time to do the show. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the show, and there's quite a few things that we need to talk about and get involved with here because a lot has happened since the last show. I want to thank first things first. I want to thank everybody for listening. I The last show was very difficult for me for obvious reasons, but I thought it was very important for me to tell the story of my ex-wife and what's been going on since then. Because a lot of us who get into the paranormal because we have lost loved ones, and I know for me that wasn't the 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 mitigating factor for me to get involved. But when my father committed suicide in 1995, that was what got me interested more into ghost hunting. I was listening to like Art Bell before that, and reading books on Wicca and such and so forth, but I never really got into the full ghost phenomena until after 95. I was interested in ghost hunting. I tried to check out this place in Palos Verdes, up close to where I lived. It's an old lighthouse. I did that with my Geeks with Attitude co-host Mac Dewey, um, back when we were both in high school, and we didn't see anything, but I still remember us in our black trench coats, with a really old video recorder or video camera in our hands. And the place is called Ghost Lighthouse. Um, Supposedly, and this is what I've heard, is that what was causing the sightings was the way it was painted or something. So when they repainted it, it didn't cast the same shadow. I really don't know. But I've also heard rumors that there's a woman in white that walks the cliffs around there. I've never seen it. I've never seen this so-called spirit, but I know people who claim they have. Anyhow, that was my first kind of ghost hunt, if you can even call it that. But it wasn't until after 1995 that I got serious into this stuff and started to really pay attention uh, to the paranormal and the other side. Anyhow, it's kind of off topic a little bit, but tonight I thought it would be kind of cool if we could do questions and answers, Q&As. I mean, last time was such a intense episode, with the death of my ex-wife, and this might be a little bit more fun. I'll give you some. I'll tell you what's been going on with Christy a little bit. It'll be like a Christy update. That's not going to change. She ain't going anywhere. But mostly I'll be taking your questions, and I'll be trying to answer them as much as I can. Now, one thing I need to tell you, that this is not a psychic reading. I am not giving readings. So if you want to contact your old Aunt Hilda, don't do it through the radio show. And also, if you're having like really intense paranormal experiences, like scary ones, if you want to contact me just to talk to me, you can do that. And I know a lot of people in this field, and I might be able to find you somebody to help. If not, then I'll pass you on to somebody that I know who can help you. Um, but for tonight, we are going to do question and answers. Before we get involved with that, I just want to thank all of you so much. I I can't even believe the response I've had for the last episode. It really, I mean, now there are hundreds of people listening, and it was like 10 people listening, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago. And I just want to thank you so much for that. That means a lot to me. And the fact that it was Christy who's put me on the map is it's just perfect. It really is, because she always wanted me to succeed, and while she was very kind of uneasy with the ghost thing sometimes, um she always pushed me to do better and better. And by doing a show talking about my feelings about her, um it's like her kind of pushing me in a way, pushing me to succeed. And that's just sweet. That's really nice. Okay, I'm okay. um Anyhow, uh the show's become a lot more than I dreamt it would. I am overwhelmed by the response that everyone has given me. And I just want to thank all of you. And I think the reason the response is so overwhelming, like I said, a lot of us get involved in the paranormal because because we've lost loved ones, and we're often visited by those loved ones, and we know that it's real. We know that this is not all in our mind, even though sometimes we think we're going nuts because, how can we not? But when you when you're oh gosh, how do I say this? Anyways, when you're um when you're thinking about your loved one, and and you hear someone on the radio, talk about their loved one and how that loved one is coming to them and talking to them, and basically helping them out, that helps with the pain and the sorrow of dealing with the loss of your loved one. And I think in a way that this show is helping me to cope with the loss of my ex-wife, who I love very much. Um, but I'm hoping that this is helping you to cope with the loss of your beloved, which I'm sure a lot of you have lost somebody, because, like I said, that's how we get involved in this. Anyways, again, I just want to thank everybody. I'm overwhelmed by this. This is more than I hoped. When I started the show, I did it basically because my hero, my radio hero, Art Bell, quit. And I was kind of like, well, if Art's quitting, you know, maybe I should just try this. Maybe I should do something. I know enough about the paranormal. And that was kind of the catalyst of the show, because I've always wanted to do this. I always wanted to be a paranormal talk radio host. And while this is a podcast, this is and just on the internet, and it's for free and all that, and it will remain for free forever. Um, I wanted to, this is something I've always wanted to do because of my interest in this, and because of my father's suicide and such and so forth. But, like I said, this has become something more. And again, I want to thank all of you, and I will stop thanking all of you, and let's get back to the show, shall we? Okay, so question and answers. Let me bring up the question and answers. Quite a few of you gave questions, and I'm only going to be able to pick a few. But I'll try this as best as I can. I don't know everything, guys. Okay. I'd like to believe that I do, but really I don't. Um, I've had lots of experience. I do have in doing this kind of stuff, and I've read a lot. But you know, there's some stuff I'm new at, some stuff that I want to learn, and and I'm always going to be honest with you guys. That is the catchphrase of this podcast, Beyond the Beyond, keeping it honest. Because I believe the paranormal community grows through honesty. Uh, People who lie about their experiences and such and so forth, they drag down what could be a great thing, and people are not going to take us seriously. So I'm always going to be honest with you people, and I want you to know that. So, anyways, let's start with the first one. And I think this is the best one to start with, considering what's been happening to me. And I'm sure Christy would want me to answer this one as well, because as you guys know, my ex-wife, Christy Stevens, Burke Wilson, uh, she died about a month ago now, and she's been visiting me quite a bit. Um, so this first question will help with that. So Connie Christie, which is interesting because because of the last name, writes to me. She asks this question: if you think you have a spirit in your home, what's the best thing to say to help them cross over? Well, this is actually, that was not the first question I was going to read, but let's start with that. Okay, I am not an expert at crossing spirits over. That is something I want to learn, and if you can teach it, contact me, because I've done it about 4 or 5 times. Um, but I'm not the ghost whisperer. I'm not Marianne Winkowski. I cannot do it at will. I want to. I think that is my ultimate goal in life, is to be able to be like the ghost whisperer, and be able to go into a house and just cross spirits over. But often it's not that simple. So, how do I do it? Like I said, I've crossed maybe 4 or 5 spirits over in my life. Um, and each time I did it, being a paranormal investigator, especially if you are working with spirits themselves, is almost like being a therapist. And because the spirits, if they haven't crossed over, are so stuck in their own heads and stuck in their own pain, you got to talk to them. So here's a really good example, and this is a really interesting story, and it's one of the coolest stories that ever happened to me. Is that my sister bought an antique mirror, and this would have been in 1997, I think. We were up in Montana, in Bozeman, Montana, and my sister bought an antique mirror, and there was a smudge on it, and that no matter what you could do, um, you tried to wipe it off, it would come back. So as things happen with with haunted artifacts or haunted collector type stuff, which this is pretty much what this case was, um, stuff started happening in the house. My mom came down from her bedroom and heard a party going on in the kitchen, which obviously residual. The next night, she was walking up the stairs and saw a woman in white walking up the stairs. Um, I started to have dreams of this woman, actually two women. Uh, I looked into the mirror and my face turned into that of a woman. And then about 5 days later, after a lot of activity, we all came into the room and realized we had a haunting. Now, my mom would never admit this because my mother is a very strong born again fundamentalist Christian. But back then, she was a little bit more open minded. Uh, so what happened was this: is that the spirits? There were two spirits actually. They were one was that of a prostitute, and the other was that of her madam, kind of, except they were like best friends. And it was very heavily hinted they were more than best friends. So what happened was this was that we started to discuss the spirit, and the spirit started giving information to both my mother and my sister. And maybe I'll contact my sister and have her on the show and talk about this. My brother was there as well. Um, Maybe I'll have them both on the show and talk about this if they remember it. I'm pretty sure they do because I was talking to my brother about it about a year ago. Anyhow, we got this information, and I don't know if you could call it a possession. It kind of was, but not in a negative light. There was nothing negative about these spirits, and I'll show you why. Um, a story came out. It was about these two people. Uh, they were in the 1800s in Montana. Uh, One was a hooker, and the other ran the brothel. Two women. Um, the hooker fell in love with this guy uh, who uh, um, uh, who the other gal, the madam, was extremely jealous of because I think that that they were pretty much lesbians and were very much in love with each other, and they couldn't keep well, after one of them died, they kept together in a sense. Anyway, we had two statues on well, not statues, they were dolls, but they looked like statues on the bookcase. And every time parts of this story would come out, I would see like a mist around the two dolls, and I would see them begin to cry. Now, these weren't actual teardrops, mind you. It was the spirit manipulating the energy in order to make it so they could see teardrops. But my point to the story, and I'll get deeper into the story later on. I think I will have my siblings on here to talk about this because it's such a good story. Um, by the end of the thing, by the time this horrible story came out about jealousy and love and murder and and all of this, um, they were released, both of them. And I don't know. I know some of you have done this before, and you know that when you release a spirit, you feel the most peace you can. And I felt this peace that we helped these two souls who were lost to find each other again. And we took the two dolls and we put them together. And those two dolls remained together until they moved away from that house. And that was the end of that haunting. The mirror completely cleared up. But my point to this is that we had to talk to them. We had to find out why they were the way they were, just like you would a regular person. And that's kind of the way I go about it. Uh, I think of myself almost as a spiritual therapist in the sense that when I go into a haunted location and I get communication with somebody, I try to talk to them and I'll try to talk them into the light first. I'll say, uh, look above you. There's a big light. Can you see it? And it says, I want you to go into it. And sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. And one of the most interesting things about that, about trying to release spirits, is that a lot of spirits are afraid of damnation. And we found that out in Utah when we were hunting in Utah, is that a lot of the spirits are sticking around because they're afraid of eternal damnation. And we try to talk them into is that God is all love and all of that kind of thing. And sometimes it works and sometimes it wouldn't. But really, um, really, you just got to think about, you got to talk to them. You got to try to find out why they're stuck. Find out what emotional thing happened to them that is keeping them in that place. And like I said, I'm not an expert on crossing spirits. I want to be. This is one of my chief goals in life is to be able to go into a house and cross spirits like that. And that's what I'm working towards. But for me, just talking to the spirits and finding out why they're so sad and why they're tied to that location helps a lot. Okay, think I hope that helps a little bit. Like I said, that's not my, well, I want it to be my bag, but it's not my bag yet. So we're going to go on to what the first question actually is. And I have all the questions right here and I'm reading them. And this is from Lisa Hamilton. If you have spirits in your house, how can you tell if they are family? Well, it's obvious why I wanted to answer this. And I have two spirits that are family who visit me. I have my father and I have Christy. And how I know it's them, especially with Christy, is that when Christy comes, the first thing happens is that I feel this overwhelming sense of love. It's unreal. It's amazing. And I feel this peace, unless she's yelling at me, which she does sometimes, which is kind of awesome. And I know it's her because of the love she feels for me. And my father, it's different. Um, my father and I had a very troubled relationship, but I feel my dad's strength. It's kind of like when you pass over, like all those things that are you, those qualities, those great qualities are amplified. That's if you're passed over. If you're earthbound, you stay exactly the same in your emotions. But if you cross over, then all those good qualities are amplified. So all the bad qualities of both my ex-wife and my dad are really not there. And like I said with Christy, it's and I can feel her right now. It's this feeling of overwhelming love and this feeling of I want you to do well and I'm sorry and I'm here and you can feel me. And I can feel her right now, my friends. I can feel her right now. And I think that if you had a bad relationship with your, let's say with your parents or so, and this has to do with another question that I'm not sure I'm going to answer because it's really personal, but this might help the person who answered this. By the way, I think you know who you are, Erica. Um, contact me, message me. I don't know if you wanted this on the air. Um, but my father, like I said, me and my father had a very troubled relationship. And I think sometimes it is possible that, especially if the spirit is not earthbound, that if there is this troubled relationship between your loved ones or your family, that you can feel that tension. But once they're no longer earthbound, that goes away. And also, if they're visiting you, if let's say that, well, let's get deep here. Let's say that you're abused by your father, and your father passes away, and your father comes back. You can talk to your father and go through those things, and often they will apologize to you. Your family members love you, and they may have done some really crappy things in the past. But the thing is that that love is still there, and when they pass over, their love is what remains. Um, let me look at Erica's thing right here. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read it. I don't know if I can answer it. I might have just answered it, which is gonna be funny, but I can feel that Erica really needs this. So this is for you, Erica Roku. My dad passed in 2011, and very tragic circumstances followed, making me think he could not rest in peace. No one even told me he passed until the day after 6 months later. My mom had a until the day after 6 months later, my mom had a stroke at the hands of a family member. I cared for her as she could no longer care for herself. She eventually went into a nursing home. On one of her visits home, she passed in my house. I tried to save her but could not. My kids saw it all. It was heart-wrenching. Weird things happen around the house. Doors make noises like someone trying to open them. Sounds like knocking on my front door. The house will be a mess. My kids and I were living in their living room, and we heard a woman's voice. My daughter went into the garage and she saw my mom in there. How do we effectively communicate with what I'm believing is my mom and dad causing the paranormal activity in my home? How do I let my dad know I have no idea what happened to him or else? I would have been there holding his hand. How do I let my parents know I'm trying to fight for justice so they may rest in peace? How do I tell them because I love and miss them so much? This is Erica Roku or Ryoku. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Well, the first thing about this is your parents probably already know. See, the thing is that ghosts are telepathic. They can read your thoughts, and they probably already know. Now, if your parents, I doubt seriously your parents are pissed at you. Okay, your parents love you, and they may be disappointed at you, and they may get frustrated at times, but they love you, and that love remains. And sometimes when a ghost, especially an earthbound spirit, is making a racket, it's not to hurt you or scare you or anything like that. It's like to say, hey guys, I'm here. Look at me. You're not paying attention to me. I just want you to know I'm here. I'm okay. But what I would do is I would talk to them and see. And sometimes they come in dreams, you know. For a spirit to talk to you, it's difficult. It takes a lot of energy. You know, they're on a whole different plane of existence. It's like different frequencies. It's kind of like you know how on the radio, you know, we turn the knob a little bit, and we go to a different station. Well, you know, they're on KROQ, and you know we're on KR 101. You know, it's a whole different frequency. So they have to find ways to be able to talk to you and try to tell you that they're okay. And if you talk to them and you tell them exactly what I told you, what you can do is this: is that pay attention to your dreams and see if they come in. See if they talk to you about that. If you hear them like in your head, you know, ask them to give you a confirmation of something. Christy loves leaving pennies all over my house, and she continues to do it. And for me, and also, you know, she talks through my psychic friends. Uh, for me, that's a way of knowing that no, I'm not going crazy, and yes, she's there. So, Erica, talk to your talk to your dad and talk to your mom. I'm pretty sure that your dad and mom still love you. I mean, there might have been some issues uh, with that, but like I said, the love never goes away. Um, know that they're not trying to scare you. Know that this is just their way of communicating. Here's a thing, and Well, this is not 100% accurate. I would say 80% of spirits are completely harmless, especially when it comes to ghosts. Um, the really spooky stuff is pretty damned rare. Uh, but it's out there. It is. But I think I think that what you're experiencing here is just your parents wanting to talk to you. And Erica, like I said, they already know. They can read your mind. And here's another thing, and I don't know if this is a case. Well, I was reading your question yesterday. Um, one thing popped into my mind, and I always pay attention to those things that pop into my mind, like right away. How much do you know about poltergeist cases? Because we talked a little bit about that. I believe it was 2 episodes ago. And when you're in that much turmoil and that much stress, sometimes stuff happens, like doors shutting or your room becoming a mess or whatever. And the thing about poltergeist cases, and I don't know if this is the same for you, and I'm just going to throw this out there, is that because we're so stressed and we're going through so much pain, um, we use what is known as psychokinesis in order to move things, and we do it unconsciously. And a lot of hauntings can be attributed to this. Like I said, I don't know if this is you or not, but I think uh, talking to talking to your dad and talking to your mom is going to make this go away. And I don't think you'll ever get rid of all the activity, uh, because your loved ones come back. They visit you. They do things. They say, I love you. They say, we are here. Pay attention to us. But I think the scary stuff, um, the knocking on the door, the room becoming a mess, all that stuff that is really freaking you will go away. And this might be your parents saying to you, it's like, look, we need you to cross us over. We're stuck here because of what horrible thing happened to us, and I don't know what that is, but I can guess. And you're our beloved daughter, and we want you to cross us over, so talk to us. And again, Erica, I don't know if I'm helping you or not, but um I think I everything in my heart says right now you just need to talk to them. So we're going to move on from that. I hope I helped you. Let me know how it goes, please. And that goes for any of you, especially of you that are having activity. And if I give you some suggestions and such and so forth, please let me know how it goes, because all of you out there are kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this. Um, so let's move on. Let's see here. And here's a fun one. And this is going to get into an interesting story that I don't tell hardly anyone. But I've always told you such crazy stuff. I don't care what I tell you nowadays. This is from Sean Nolan. Have you ever met the Black Eyed Kids? Well, no, Sean, I have never met the Black Eyed Kids. And honestly, I believe Black Eyed Kids was our first show. Was it our first show? I'd have to look back on that. But the Black Eyed Kids fascinate me in that kind of creepy, kooky kind of way that horror films fascinate me. Uh, there's nothing freakier to me than Black Eyed Kids. Um, but I'm not sure, and I believe I've said this before. Um, I tend to be skeptical about things I have not experienced. I keep an open mind. Art Bell used to say, I put it in my gray box. And Black Eyed Kids are in my gray box. But they fascinate me. But I did experience something very similar. Now, like I said, I don't usually tell anyone this because this is a weird one. Um, but I'm telling you all about that. My ex-wife is haunting my apartment. So uh, at this point, I can pretty much tell you all anything. So this was in 1995, and back in the day, me and my sister, and no, I could probably get my sister to talk about this as well. I'm gonna contact her and get her on the show. I think that's a great idea. Um, Me and my sister's friend, I believe it was Brandy, and my friend Justin were driving back from a club called Helter Skelter, which was a gothic club in 1995. It was in Hollywood. We were driving down Santa Monica Boulevard and we came to a stoplight. Now, this is going to get weird, guys. This is going to get weird. And you're going to say, oh, this is bullshit. But no, this really happened. I don't know what it was. I have no clue. I know what I call it, but that doesn't mean that's what it was. Okay, with that disclaimer, I'll continue with the story. A It was a Mercedes Benz pulled next to us, and I looked over, and there was this guy in a very rich suit, and I looked at him, and his face. There was something very unnatural about his face. Like, it wasn't plastic, it wasn't a mask, it wasn't makeup. My God, I wore makeup every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday back in the day when I went to clubs and played in bands and stuff. I would know makeup. But there was something very unnatural about his face. It was a very beautiful face, very handsome, and but there was something really wrong. And I looked over, and his eyes were these black pools, which just brought me in to this horrible, sick feeling. You know, okay, you psychics out there know that when you go into a haunted location and it's a dark spirit, then you're going to get a stomach ache. Well, this was like that, except more intense. It was absolute and total fear. And my friend Justin, keep in mind the windows are open. I mean closed. My friend Justin mentioned under his breath, very quietly, and said the word vampire. And the guy who was in the car right next to us glanced over, smiled, and drove away. What the hell did I see? I don't know. I don't know what that was. To this day, I have no clue what that was. I call it the vampire because of what Justin said, but do I think it's a vampire? No. I have no clue. Now, Art Bell had a guest on about 6, 7 months ago who talked about these beings that rule Hollywood, and I don't know if I believe that, but I'm open to anything. Uh, but I'll get a little deeper into that. We started hearing stories around Southern California in 95 to about 96 of these beings. And I was at Renaissance Fair. I used to work Renaissance Fair many, many, many years ago. Like I said, this is 95, 96. And someone told me a very similar story that happened to them in Las Vegas that was at a bar. And then my ex-girlfriend, Roberta, she told me that she had a similar experience. So we were hearing stories about beings like this for, gosh, like for about a year. And then it kind of just went away. Um, and to this day, I can't tell you what that was. I'll tell you this, though. Being a goth, I used to be really into vampires. Uh, I couldn't read Anne Rice for about 3 years after that. But it could have been alien, it could have been some demonic thing, it could have been Hell, maybe it was just a serial killer, and I just picked up on that evil. I don't know what it was. But no, I have never seen a black-eyed kid, but I did see a black-eyed adult. It didn't really have black eyes, but it had pools of darkness that were bringing me in. So that's the end of that story, and I can't believe I told you guys that. All right, let's see what's next. Um, all right. I can't. William Amore, I can't tell you if your bedroom's a portal. Um, if you think it is and you're having activity, try to find someone to help you. They could probably tell you. Uh, I can't do psychic readings over this. I can sometimes do readings over Messenger, but I can't do it just by you asking me. Okay, here's an interesting one. Jessica Zavala asked, "Is it true that when all you feel a cool spot, there's a spirit near you?" Well, that's controversial. I've been on cases where there have been cold spots, and yes, we got activity around the cold spots. Uh, but it really depends on who you talk. The real answer is, and this is going to be the answer to a lot of things, we really don't know. You know, this, I don't know if I would call this a science. I guess parapsychology is considered a soft science. Um, but the real answer is that we really don't know. Um, it's possible. We do know this. We know that that spirit activity can that when stuff starts to happen, often things will start to get really cold. Uh, is that spirit drawing out the energy of around you in order to manifest? I don't know. I think so. I think that's the case. But we really don't know. Um, I think I think that sometimes, I think a lot of times when we're talking about the paranormal, my brother has a saying, and it's all of the above. And I think in this case, it's all of the above. I think that sometimes, yes, when there's a cold spot, then a spirit is taking energy out of it, and then sometimes it isn't. And like I said, I don't think we really know. Um, let's see here. Did I read this one? Oh, yes, yes, yes. Shadow people. Okay. Um, Melissa McClelland uh, uh, wrote me and asked this question. I've seen a shadow person running across a yard before. It was dark outside, but this thing was darker than the dark. It was about 4 feet tall and almost ran into my car. I know this sounds crazy, but I know what I saw. I've researched shadow people numerous times, but I'm never satisfied with the explanation I find. So my question is, what are they? Again, we don't know, but there are lots of possibilities. Um, I know former colleagues of me might say that what you were experiencing is an elemental, but I don't know. Um, darker than dark, a lot of spirits will do that. It's like this pitch black shadow. And I think most of the time, shadow people are just ghosts. Um, I know certain investigators believe that all shadow people are ghosts, but I don't believe that. Uh, I know there are certain investigators that think that all shadow people are alien, and I don't believe that. Again, I think it's an all of the above situation. I think that um, sometimes ghosts look like shadow people. I mean, we got a picture on a case that was this shadow being wearing a black cowboy hat. Do I think that was some extra dimensional thing? I don't think so. I think that was probably some spirit from the old west. This was Utah. Um, and people wear cowboy hats in Utah in the old west. So I think that's what that was. Um, but when you read about shadow beings, and this kind of dips back into the Black Eyed Children, is that there is this feeling of overwhelming fear, like fear so bad that you're just shaking. And they talk about the red eyes and all that, but it's that sense of fear. And I don't think that the shadow beings that are like that show off that overwhelming fear are necessarily ghosts. Now, ghosts can do that. Ghosts can scare the hell out of you, especially if they're earthbound. Not all ghosts are good, and a lot of ghosts are pulling out a lot of energy that can terrify you. And but I think that once they dip into, like, okay, here's the classic case, right? Um, you wake up, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. You wake up, there's a figure staring at your bed. He's wearing a black hat. He's got red eyes. You are terrified. You are so scared you cannot move. You are frozen to death. Uh, and then it's gone. Well, here's a rational explanation for that. That particular case, that could be sleep paralysis. That sometimes we hallucinate when we're drifting off to sleep, and our brains play tricks on us. That's possibly a lot of cases can be ruled out that way, but I believe it's foolish to rule them all out that way. Um, Too much stuff happens for it all to be sleep paralysis. And it's not always when you're asleep, right? It's, people have seen these things when they're camping. People have seen these things when they're driving. People have seen these things just walking around the house, walking around the woods, walking on the beach, right? Um, so it's not all sleep paralysis. My guess is, and this is just a guess, right? This is just me thinking about this, is that it's something extra dimensional, that we live on, we have our plane of existence, and there are multiple worlds. And this is going to start sounding like science fiction, but these are actual theories, that there are multiverses. And I think a lot of the activity that we experience, but not all of it, come from other universes. That they come from other dimensions and other universes, and they find ways to get into our dimension and universe, and they're there for a little bit, and then they go away. And maybe this universe is like an anti-universe. Like, it used to be. I'm a big science fiction fan. I host another show called Geeks with Attitude, which talks about all this science fiction stuff and superheroes and all that kind of stuff. But just suppose that there is a universe that is completely the negative to ours. It's like white universe, black universe, and not as it's evil. Okay, I'm not saying good and evil here. It's just the complete opposite. Well, if a being from that universe showed up in our world, wouldn't it feel wrong? Wouldn't it feel scary? Wouldn't you be terrified? Because that being is not supposed to be in this universe. Now, is it evil? I don't know. I don't think I would call that evil, and I don't think it's trying to scare you or anything. I think it's just not in the place that it should be. And that is my guess about shadow folk or shadow people. But again, like I said, all of the above. Some are ghosts, some could be aliens, some can be extra dimensional travelers from the other universes. Uh, Again, we don't know, and so much of this is we don't know. But that's my theory. That's my personal theory. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? I hope you're all having fun with this, because I certainly am. And this is really keeping me from thinking about all the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. And we're gonna do this again, and I have a feeling you're all gonna love this. And so I don't know what our next show is going to be. We might do this again, but we'll, let's continue. Let's just continue. Um, Bridget Sweet writes me, when I was a kid, I lived in a house that was older than 150 years. It started off as a Saudi. Oh, okay. I don't think you're from the US. House built in a hill. Oh, that sounds awesome. Sounds like a hobbit hole. Um, then was gradually built up to a two-story. I played with three spirit children. She says, yeah, weird, but true. Well, yeah, Bridget, I believe you. Don't worry. Um, they used to live in the house and they died there in different times. So 40 years later, uh, she went back to the house and still felt the warmth and happy feelings. I looked in the window and said, hello, it's me and I'm back. And then stepped back and took a pic of the house. And later, when I took the pics, I saw the three kids in the window and I said hi. So, my question, are they still waiting for me? And is this healthy? That's a tough one. I don't think these spirits are negative at all. I would have to ask some questions because when it comes to spirit children, I get a little bit leery. Um, do these spirits have any missing body parts on them? Did they want you to do anything that was unhealthy? Things like that. I think generally um, that's, they're probably just spirits, who visited you and they remember you because, they are spirits. They act human and all that kind of thing. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong about this. I don't feel anything wrong about it. But again, I'm not sure. Um, I have a theory about spirit children. Uh, I think I mentioned this a little bit that I think that often spirit children aren't children at all, but that when we pass on, we could take the form of any being we want. Or I think how it works, I think it's you can take the form of how you were in your life. And a lot of times when, there are like locations that are haunted that have nothing but spirit children. Um, and it always seems weird to me. Like, if you guys remember on the old Coast to Coast show back in the 90s, there was this team out of Utah called GIS, and all they would get through their EVP were spirit children. And Art Bell would always talk about how sad he thought that was. Well, I don't think that they were spirit children. I just think that they were, just spirits who like to take the form of children. And I think with you, Bridget, I think that the spirit kids probably related to you in child form because you were a child and they want to communicate because ghosts want to talk, right? It gets kind of lonely there on the other side, and you know, especially if you're stuck somewhere, stuck in another dimension or a location, you know, um, they want to communicate. So often spirits will take the form that you're comfortable with. Now, there's a trap in this. And again, we're getting into a little bit controversial here. Uh, Demonologists, and I am far more on the side of parapsychology than I am on demonology. I try to keep in the middle, really. I believe that there are inhuman spirits, and I believe that they do wreak havoc. Um, but I try to keep the religious aspects balanced, I guess. I'm open to anything, but I try not to make it too religious. But uh, I know I read a book a long time ago that stated that spirits that inhuman spirits will take the form of children in order to bring you in, and then after they do that, um, all hell breaks loose. Again, we're in demonology, and this is controversial, and I don't know what I think about it. I think it's possible. Um, in your case, I don't think that's true. I would have to ask you how you felt around it. You're talking about warm and happy feelings, and I don't think an inhuman spirit can give you warm and happy feelings. I think that inhuman spirits are incapable of love and can't even latch onto that energy, you know? Um, so, yeah, I think they probably are. Um, how did you know that well, you're not here, but I would have asked you, how did you know that they died there in different times? And do you know who they are? And have you been able to like look them up or such and so forth, research? I'm really bad at research. Uh, Back in my USEP days, Utah Society of Unexplained Phenomena, uh, I couldn't research to save my life. We had this awesome researcher by the name of Amanda. She would go to the library. She could do all that stuff. She was amazing. She could find out who lived in this house in like the 1900s and blah 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 blah. But I couldn't do that. That's not my expertise. But anyways, I would ask you that question. Um, I think here's another really weird idea, and we're gonna go really off the wall here. Um, as I'm running this through my head, what if these three spirit children might have been friends of yours in another life? I'm just throwing this out there. I'm going to throw everything out there. You know, uh, like I said, we really don't know what's going on here. So we got to speculate. We can theorize and we can test our theories, and sometimes that pans out. But with experiences like this, keep an open mind and think of everything. And that just popped into my head since I'm dealing with past life stuff right now. Uh, but if I think the main thing to keep this, uh, the main thing you can take away from this, Bridget, is I think if you're feeling warmth and happiness and love and and feelings like that, it can't be evil. And I'm just gonna say that. And if it's not evil, then yeah, it probably is healthy. Uh, if you get too attached to a spirit and stuff, that could be unhealthy because you're not living your life and you're. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I could be wrong. I will admit if I'm wrong, but um, I think that's it. I think you're fine. All right, let's see. Is there anything else here? Cool spot. Wow. I think. Oh wow. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, cool. I think that's all of the questions that I had for tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoyed this quite a bit. Not sure what we're doing next week. I will start having guests, and for those of you who watch Geeks with Attitude, which is my pop culture podcast. It's actually a vidcast. You know that we are starting to get calls. Um, and if we can do that on that show, we can certainly start doing that here. Uh, so I'm going to start working that out. My main goal right now is to get guests, but things kind of got thrown off track. We will have a guest soon, I promise. Um, and I'm trying to work that out. Uh, but as you know, this is a new thing to me, and I'm learning all this stuff. And and trying to learn how to do guests and all that kind of stuff. So, it takes time. But now with, gosh, I don't even know how many of you guys are listening now. I know that I think we're in our hundreds now. I think there are hundreds of people watching this, listening to this show. Uh, I, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we will keep doing things that are exciting. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm not sure. Like I said, I do this with Geeks with Attitude, which you should look us up if you're into Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Civil War, uh, anything having to do with pop culture, superheroes, that kind of thing. Look us up. It's a very different show than this. Uh, it's basically me and my friend Mac, and we we argue about movies all the time. That's pretty much it, and we're very entertaining. Uh, oh gosh, what is my point with that? I just lost my point. Oh yes, uh, I'm thinking about going video with this, like we do with the GWA, having both a video feed and a audio feed. With paranormal, video feed, audio feed is usually better, um, because that voice in the night effect, which is just kind of awesome. Um, but with the video feed, I can show pictures and things like that because we use a green screen on Geeks with Attitude. So we show pictures of new people, like actors and stuff, dressed up in their costumes or things like that. If you're a geek, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm thinking we're going to test that out. And with the video, since we have with GWA, we have a bad movie correspondent who calls in from Seattle. We will probably be able to start taking calls while doing that. I'm going to get in contact with a couple of you, and we might test that out and see how that works. But until then, we'll keep doing this, and we'll talk about a few things. I want to know what you guys want me to talk about. I I know a lot about ghosts. I know a little bit about cryptids. Um, I know quite a bit about UFOs, though that's not my main topic at all. Um, I know a ton, ton about magic and things like that. Um, I know a lot about near-death experiences, astral projection, all that stuff. So if there is a topic that you want me to bring up, let me know. Now, like I said, this show's not about psychic readings. I can talk about mediumship, but I'm not going to give readings on the air because I can't do that right now. And even if I could, with like you messaging me on Facebook or sending me something, you know, this is usually only an hour show. It's like a half hour to hour. I think we've now crossed over to an hour, and this one's going to run over a little bit. Um, uh, uh, so if I was to give you a reading, and I do tarot readings, and sometimes when I do tarot readings, your dead relatives will pop up and talk to me. Um, I would want to have a longer time, and I don't want to use this to promote that side of me. Um, though, maybe in the future I might. Yeah, who knows? Like I said, I'll talk about it, but I don't know. I'd want to give you as much time as possible to deal with your issues. Um, so yeah, this show's not about psychic readings, and I'm not going to give psychic readings on like on the Facebook page. But we will talk about psychics, and we will talk about mediumship. And if you want to talk about the history of mediumship, we can go there. Um, So yeah, just let me know what you want to talk about. And I want to tell you that this was a great show. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'll see you all next week. And like I said, I'm gonna leave you with two things. If you have a loved one, I want your husband or wife, kids, parents, whatever. I want you to give them a big kiss for me and tell them how much you love them, because you never know if they're going to be there or not. And I think that's very important. And it's and I want you to know that that love never goes away. It transforms itself. Like Christy's no longer my wife. She's no longer my girlfriend. She's kind of like a spirit guide. And that love transforms itself into like a non-sexual love, I guess. Because suppose someone else is supposed to be coming into my life, soon. We'll see if that happens. But I keep that door open. But anyways, my point is that love your loved ones, and for those who've had loved ones passed on, know they're with you, and they want you to succeed. They're not going to hurt you, and they love you, and that is the most important thing about this show. So we're going to sign off now, and that was the Beyond radio show, and I'm Philip Wilson. That's me. I'm Phil, your host, your ghost host, and I will talk to you later. And goodbye.